Hi, beautiful people. Thank you so very much for joining in. If you're seeing this, congratulations. What an amazing milestone. This shows that you have successfully moved from theory and now we are here in our hands-on lab. I believe your credentials must have been passed across to you, so you should be on this landing page in the sense that you must have typed in office.com on your browser, put in your username and password, and boom, you are here. So if you can see this, congratulations once again. And what is this? So this is the Microsoft 365 end user homepage, everyone. So if you are here, you are likely an end user or an admin. But this is the end user homepage. Whenever you log into office.com, it brings you here. So you can see welcome to Microsoft 365 Copilot. And somehow we have talked about what Copilot is the Microsoft AI service, provided to help you improve your productivity, enhance your efficiency at work, at school, wherever you find yourself, and you are about to prompt an AI. Copilot is a beautiful one that you should, try. So, so sorry for the background noise. If you can hear that, that's my alarm. Okay, so back to where we are. This is Microsoft 365 end user home page, and we'll be talking about briefly about the features that you can see here so you can, have an understanding of what they are and what they can do. So the first one is the home page. We can see actually welcome to Microsoft 365 Copilot. In case you don't know why we are having Copilot here, is because Copilot will help you summarize your document. It will help you summarize your document, giving you some key points just in case you have like a very voluminous, document or a voluminous book that you're reading, an ebook or something, and you would want Copilot to summarize it for you, give you key points and all of that. Yes, this is the reason why you have Copilot embedded in your Microsoft 365 account as an add-on. Doesn't matter if you're a student, it doesn't matter if you're a home user, it doesn't even matter if you're a business user, like using Business Basic down to Enterprise, you get to have, a flavor of Microsoft 365 Copilot. It also helps you with your emails, just in case there is a particular email that you want to respond to, you're searching for that email. It makes searching for emails beautiful because you can do that just with a click of a button, and it can go ahead to help you with your replies as well. So Copilot can do a whole lot for you. Remember to improve your productivity, enhance efficiency at your workplace, or even if you're a student and all of that. But that's not what we are here for. Just to give you a beautiful overview of what Copilot can do. So if you look at the very top, we have what you call the app launcher. So if I should click on this app launcher, what do I get to see? If I click on the app launcher, I get to see Microsoft 365 Copilot, Outlook, OneDrive, Word, Excel, and the entire Office suite. Okay, so if you're an end user, you can also see all of this, right? What makes you an admin is the fact that even after seeing all of this, you get to see this admin icon over here. So every end user gets to see everything that is here aside the or apart from the admin icon. So that is what makes you an admin. So if you're watching this, you're part of the Microsoft 365 Starship program, you should be able to see this icon. Okay, do not click on it yet. Just pause on that. So the next one is the more apps. For the more apps, it just takes you to where you see more of the apps. So if I click on that, it brings me over here. So I get to see a whole lot of applications. Okay, so depending on the one I want to use, I can go ahead and use it. So basically, that's what the more apps can do for you. Moving up from your app launcher, where you get to see all of this, you can also get to see the shortcuts of all of this as well. So if I want to create a Word document, I can go ahead and click this, or I can go ahead and click this. Similarly to creating Excel, I can click this or I can click this, okay? So I can also go ahead to add more. If I click on this plus sign button, it's going to take me to where I can create any of the Office applications that I would want to, use generally. So what else can we do? If I should click out here, go back to the Copilot. Now you can see this looks more like the chat GPT that most of us are used to, right? We are used to prompting an AI, and this is exactly what it looks like. So this is me saying, tell me about life in Lagos, and it generated all of this for me. I can go ahead and say, what is, let me just say, what is ginger? Okay, just to show you that it works exactly like your, chat GPT. So you can see it's brought up everything that you need to know about ginger and all of that. So it's a very beautiful tool, a very beautiful tool that you can actually utilize. Okay, the next option is create. So remember we saw create in our app launcher as a shortcut, so you can also see it here fully. So if I should go ahead and click on create, you see that it brings me to where I can go ahead to create any of these applications. Okay, so the next one is OneDrive. OneDrive is Microsoft's cloud storage. We all know about Google Drive. So if you know about Google Drive, then you should know about OneDrive. Okay, um, just a knowledge check. I want to test your knowledge. How many worth of space or cloud space do you get to have? How many cloud storage space does a user have whenever they purchase a Microsoft 365 license? Who knows the answer? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Okay, so if you say 1 terabyte, then you are correct because the answer is 1 terabyte. So for every user on Microsoft 365, you get to have 1 terabyte, guys, 1 terabyte of space assigned to you. So you can have your media files, you can have documents, whatever it is, applications uploaded to your OneDrive, and it stays there. It's definitely for you. You can also invite people, it's not just for your use alone, but it is aligned more for an individual use, in comparison with SharePoint that's more for teams, when teams are collaborating for document with their documents and all of that. Same thing you can do here with my um, Microsoft OneDrive. You can add or invite people over here. You can create meetings, you can see your media files and all of that. So it's a very beautiful platform. Just works exactly like your Google cloud storage. The next thing we'll look at is meetings. So sorry, I said meetings, pages. So pages is like your OneNote, okay? So pages work exactly like your OneNote, so you can write a whole lot. Anything that comes into your mind, an idea, a business proposal, a letter that you just want to store up somewhere, a troubleshooting step, or something that you want to take cognizance of, and you want to store it up somewhere, you can just go ahead and put it down. Like here, I was writing life in Lagos. So I can go ahead and say maybe beautiful, let's do beautiful swan, beautiful, oops, sorry. Let's just do beautiful woman. So I can write about a beautiful woman if I wanted to. So you can just put down any of your ideas here. You can share with people and all of that. But this is just an overview of all of these things. We're not really going to look at, notes because those are end user stuff. This is a class for administrators. So we'll be looking at OneDrive, in details as time goes on, but we're not going to be looking at notes, okay? But we'll definitely be looking at OneDrive, most definitely. Okay, so sorry about that. That is another phone call. So sorry about that if you heard it. So let's move on. Um, the next thing that you can see here is the ellipses. So the ellipses just gives you a shortcut to more apps, which is this, okay? And to the admin center, which is this. That's exactly where we are headed because this class is focused or projected towards the admin side of things. So there are two ways to get into the admin portal, or let's say there are three ways. If you are here in office.com, there are two ways. So we go here and we go over here. So using the app launcher, you go to the admin icon and it takes you to the admin portal. Or you go down to the ellipsis and you go over here. Then if you do not want to come through office.com, you don't want to come, through the end user space, as an admin, you can just quickly go ahead and type admin.microsoft.com and click on enter, and it will take you directly to where we are headed. So let's go ahead and click on enter. So if you haven't signed in before, if you haven't signed into office.com before, you definitely have to put in your username and your password. Okay, but because we have signed in before, it's just going to bring us directly there. Okay, so this is where we are. We are now in the admin portal. So if you can see this, congratulations, because you are there. So even if you click on the app launcher and the admin icon, you click on the ellipsis and the admin icon, or you type admin.microsoft.com, it's going to get you down here. So what do we have here? This is just an overview. This is just an overview of the general Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So this is the Microsoft 365 Admin Center overview, and there's a whole lot that you can do over here. So let's briefly look at it. You can see the first thing we see is a simplified view. It's just giving you the opportunity to customize your view to what you want, So if I go to dashboard view, excuse me, so you see that it has changed my view. It has given me more of a dashboard view. Okay, so let's go back to the simplified view. Great, so we can see all of this. So what exactly do we get to see in our overview page? We can see a shortcut for adding a user, shortcut for resetting the user's password, shortcut for adding a group, and we can see dark mode. This ellipsis give us access to change our looks to the dark mode. So if you click on dark mode, everything here is going to change to, looking dark, black. And that's my favorite view. That's my favorite view. But due to the, we are just beginning the class so that we can all know how it looks like from scratch. So I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay. So what can we see? Set up email with a custom domain is the next shortcut that we can see here. So remember I said something that if you purchase any of the business plans, be it from Business Basic, it gives you the opportunity to set up your emails with your business domain. So instead of having your name.your-surname at gmail.com as your business name, as some people who are not really professional do, they just go ahead to use at yahoo.com, at gmail.com, which is not their business domain. But if you have Microsoft 365, as we progress, I'll show you how to do that. You can connect your business domain to Microsoft 365 so that when you are creating an email address or a user account, the user account will be something like my name.mysurname at yourcompany.com. For example, if your company is mtn.com and you want to create an email account for me or a user account for me, you can go ahead and say my name, let's say hannah.chris at mtn.com. So it looks very professional, and everywhere you go, people are gonna take you seriously because it looks professional. They believe in your company because you have your own digital space. You have your own logical isolation. Okay, so your name dot your surname or whatever naming convention. Some people use only their first name. Some people use the first initial and their last name. For example, h.chris at mtn.com. That's just an example. Whatever your domain is, you can definitely add it here to Microsoft 365, and we will see how to do that in our coming class. Very important. Connect with more customers. So this is an application called Bookings. Microsoft 365 gives you the access or the opportunity to, provide a schedule with your client. So your client can book an appointment with you using an application called Bookings. Okay. So we'll see a little bit of that as we progress as well. This is just an overview. So I need you to see everything here. So the first thing you see again in your simplified overview view or in your simplified view, okay, is the users. So the users, so guys, you can see your names here. For those that submitted their assignments only, we're still expecting more people, but if you can see your names here. Okay, so you get to see the names of people in your organization. So let's just imagine this is Zionlead organization and you get to see the staff name here. However, let's say we are 1,000 people. You cannot see 1,000 people here. You just see as much as it can take. Okay, and then you can scroll down to the next and you get to see other people. Isn't that so? So the next thing you see here is teams. Is part of what we'll be talking about, right? So we'll talk about that as we progress, but this is a shortcut of it. You get to see the teams that we have. Then products, which is our subscription. Because of this class, we are using a Microsoft 365 E5 license. However, it's an E5 developer license. Okay, so it's a little bit restricted. However, it has everything that you would need for this program. It's the highest subscription for the Microsoft 365 Business Enterprise. Microsoft 365 Enterprise, license is the Microsoft 365 E5, but because it's a training, so we are using the developer license. So let's just imagine this is not a training. You wouldn't see developer, you'd see Microsoft 365 E5 license. Okay, you'd see your Microsoft 365 Business Basic, Microsoft 365 Apps for Business, all of the subscriptions that you have purchased. You will get to see them under your products. Okay, then if you have assigned licenses, if you click on these licenses, you get to see the people that you have assigned licenses to. But don't worry, we are getting there. Okay, this is just an overview, so I'm just brushing it up. Then upcoming changes, if Microsoft worked on something or they changed something or they're about to change something, they will give you an update. So this is exactly where you get to see all the update, guys. If you're an admin, this is exactly where you get to see it. Okay, so let's quickly move on. The next one is learn. So if you want to have a little bit of, like a walkthrough, you get to see this video. It's just like 2 minutes video of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center walkthrough. So they'll walk you through the Admin Center. So you can watch that as well. Then what do we get to see again? Setup. So we have 4 basic, admin setup. And if you see here, we've only achieved 2. We haven't achieved the remaining 2. So for us to be able to achieve the remaining 2, we can go ahead and click on it. Watch a video on how to get started, which is that video. So if you watch that video, this will be checked. Then install Microsoft 365 on your PC or MacBook. Okay, so now let me show you how to do that. You can either click here or you go back to where we are coming from. This is where we were coming from. Okay, so you go back to home. Now if you look at over here at your right hand side, you see install and more. So for those of you who are still using cracked versions, if you've received your credentials, please uninstall that cracked version, click over here, right, and click on this install Microsoft 365 apps. So it's going to install all the Microsoft 365 Office suites for you, the original and latest versions. You definitely will see the original and latest versions of the Office suites. Okay, and if you want to explore more apps, you can go ahead and explore more apps. And if you want to install the Microsoft 365 Copilot mobile app, you can do so. But this is the one we are concerned about. So even though you're using a MacBook or Windows, you can just go ahead and click on this and it's going to get installed, original versions. And as long as you have your credentials, it is going to sign in with your credentials and license all of your application. So congratulations, you just installed the latest and original versions of Microsoft Office Suite and not the cracked versions. Okay, this is a temporary arrangement, but even though you can still go ahead to use it after we are done with this program, it is still going to be available for you. Even after your licenses have been taken away, the original versions will still be for you. Okay, so yeah, this is exactly what you need to do. Okay, so let's go back to the admin center. So we just talked about briefly what you can see in your overview pane. Your overview pane. Okay, these are the things that you can see. So the next thing we need to look at is Copilot. We'll be skipping this for now, but what this does is just give you the opportunity to give your Copilot the right settings. But like I said, pause. We are moving one step at a time. Okay, we cannot just start doing Copilot and then jump into users, and it's going to be crazy. Okay, this is not a Copilot class. It's a Microsoft 365 training that doesn't really focus on Copilot, but focuses on what? Exchange, SharePoint, Teams, Entra ID, OneDrive. Okay, so we will definitely come back here. There's really nothing so special about you just walk through the settings, but I don't want to confuse us. That's why I said pause here and let's go to users. So under users, you have active users. This is where we are dwelling on. So if you can see, you'd see your names, right? You see your names. You know, you saw this in the shortcut that's in the overview pane. You could see the list of users. So where you'd really get a better view of users and what you can do with the users is what? Right here, which is under users, then active user. So let's go to the slide. So who is a user in Microsoft 365? A user in Microsoft 365 is a person who has an account within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Users might be employees, students, or anybody who needs access to the Microsoft 365 suite of services and application. Each user account is issued a unique username and password, and it enables the individual to log in and access various Microsoft 365 applications and services based on the rights and licenses that have been assigned. So in a nutshell, everything that I've just explained, a user is a person that has what? Sign-in capabilities and that interacts with what? The Microsoft 365 application or suites of applications and services. Okay, so usually a user can be an identity of a person or just an identity of a service account. Okay, a service account is an account that is used to interact with applications. It's not necessarily an individual, but it's an account that is used to maybe authenticate to something within the Microsoft 365 platform. But don't bother your head. Understand this simple level, that a user is someone who has sign-in capabilities and interacts with Microsoft 365 suites of applications and services. Okay, so a user can be licensed or unlicensed. A licensed user will have access to the entire Microsoft 365 applications and services based on their license. So if you're using the Microsoft 365 Business Basic, everything that the Business Basic has to offer, right, is exactly what the user will have access to. So if the licensed user is using the Microsoft 365 standard, everything that Microsoft 365 standard has is what the user would have access to. However, if the user is not licensed, the user will only have sign-in capabilities but will not be able to interact with the Microsoft 365 suites of applications and services. Do we understand? Great. So you can, rewind this and take it again so you'd understand. Licensed user and unlicensed user. So you can have a user, you can create a user on Microsoft 365 platform without assigning a license to this user. So this user that you have created will only have a username and a password and will be able to sign in but will not be able to interact with the suite of applications and services offered by Microsoft 365. All right, so let's go back to the platform. Great. So we can see over here we can add a user. There's a user template, add multiple users, then multi-factor authentication. So what do we see again? Delete user, refresh, reset password, export user, change view, directory synchronization, Teams setup status. Okay, so let's take it one after the other. Let us go ahead and add a user. How did I add these users in the first place? How did I add you guys? Okay, so pretty much this is exactly what you're going to do. Your organization just employed a guy called Musa Adams, and you are the Microsoft 365 person, or you are the IT person in charge of creating users. So how do you get to create users in Microsoft 365? You go ahead and click on add user. Now there is a naming convention your organization uses, and the naming convention is the user's first name dot their surname at your company's domain. Okay, so our company's domain is xt62t.onmicrosoft.com. I would explain how we got this dot on Microsoft.com. So when you purchase a Microsoft 365 subscription, okay, the first thing Microsoft will do, they will give you a temporal domain name that is on their own domain. So it's more like a subdomain to their own domain so that you can authenticate with that domain depending on when you want to add in your own custom domain like mtn.com, gtbank.com, microsoft.com. Depending on when you want to add your own custom domain, your name.com, whatever. Okay, so they will give you a temporal subdomain from their Microsoft domain, and that's why our temporal domain is what? xt62t.onmicrosoft.com. So this is a proper functional working domain. So even if I create a user with this, just like the ones you have, you will be able to sign in with that until we bring in our custom domain, and then we can click on the drop down and you would see mtn.com or your custom domain here, and you can choose, while creating your user. But for now, just know this, that this is like our mtn.com. Okay, so his name is what? Musa Adams, and our naming convention is first name dot last name at companies.domain.com. So we go and do Musa, we go and do Adams, and then automatically the display name will be Musa Adams. You can customize it by changing it to only Musa if you like, but generally speaking it comes with the first name and last name. Okay, so this is exactly where we now create his email account, which is also his user account. So what is that email account? We say first name is Musa dot his last name Adams, and then this is already there for us, so we don't need to do anything. If mtn.com, if we've integrated our custom domain like maybe max.com is here, or max.com.ng, you would see it in the drop down and you can click on it and select that. But we don't have that because we haven't done any integration, so we leave it this way. Then there is an opportunity to say automatically create a password. So this makes life easier for us. If we should leave this automatically create a password, it will automatically generate a password for this user, and we can give it to this user to sign in. However, some company, they do have policies that after you automatically create a password for a user, the user should be able to change their password to whatever they want to change it to, without your intervention. So in that case, you go ahead and click on this checkbox, require this user to change their password when they first sign in. So I click on next. Then the next thing I will be doing is to to select the location if I wanted to, but let's assume, sorry, that we are living in the United States, and we'll go ahead and leave this as default. The next thing you need to do is to go ahead and assign this user a license. So if I should click on this, it means that I am creating a what? A licensed user. And this user will have signing capabilities and the ability to interact with what? The Microsoft 365 suite of applications and services. What if I don't want this user to have all of that? I just want him to have signing capabilities. So what do? I go ahead and click on this one. Create user without a product license. Okay, so you can see they say not recommended. So because if the user doesn't have a product license, they will not be able to log into Office Word, they will not be able to use Outlook and all of that. Okay, but I can do that if I wanted to. So I go ahead and click on next, and then I can choose a role if I want the user to be an admin or not. Well, let's go back and give this user a license. I want this user to be a licensed user, and you can see our license count. Okay, so if I give this user a license, it will be 13. He will be my 13th person out of 25 licenses under this subscription. So I now go ahead and click on next. Then I can come over here and select a role for this user. Okay, maybe he is part of the managerial department, and part of his role is that he will be in charge of assigning licenses. He will be in charge of doing, license work and all of that. So I can decide to come over here and look for a suitable admin role for him. Now, mind you, there's a role called global admin. Global admin means you are a super administrator. You can do and undo. You have access to do everything on the platform. It is not a wise decision to do, so you do not give users global admin except the person is in charge of the platform. Maybe he's your IT manager, or he's the one second in charge, right? You can go ahead and give the person a global admin, but it is not advisable. The maximum global admin that's advisable based on Microsoft's recommendation for any organization is 5, right? So we are not going to give this guy a global admin. He's just going to be helping his team because he's a manager, yeah, right? So he's just going to be helping his team, and we can give him a user administrator option. And what do we have here? He'll be able to reset user's password, create and manage users and groups, including filters, manage service requests, and monitor service health. Okay, so we'll talk about service health as we proceed, but just understand that. So you can look at all this icon, and you can see what role best suits the user, and you can give multiple roles. Okay, but for now, we just want to make this user a user admin, and that we read earlier is exactly what he will be doing, because that's the permission we have given him. Okay, so the next thing we can do is we can go ahead here to add information about him. It's not compulsory, but most organizations do this so that their users can be organized. Okay, they do this so that their users can be organized. So it's always advisable to take your time to do this, but if you don't want to do this, just skip it for now. Okay, now this show by category is just to show the roles by category. Okay, so for now, ignore this. You can add here if you want. Then you go ahead and click on next. Excuse me. And remember what we said. We said the password should be auto-generated. Right? The password should be auto-generated. However, the user should be able to change it when the user signs in. So we click on finish adding. And then you can see Musa Adams, his username as well as his email address has been created, and this is his password. So you can go ahead and copy it out for the user. I'll go ahead and copy it out. Okay, and I'll keep it somewhere. Right? And then you can click on close. So I have succeeded in creating another user. It is as simple as that. So what if your organization hires 10, 20 users? How do we get to add them? Are we going to be doing this at once? No. So that is exactly where you have multiple users option. So if your organization hires, let's say, 10 to 20 users and above, you can go ahead and use the add multiple user option. So how do we do that? Let's go ahead and click on add multiple users. Now, there are two ways of adding multiple users. The first way is what we're going to talk about today, and then we'll look at the second way in our next class so that our head doesn't get oversaturated. So what is the first way? You can just go ahead and put in their first name, their last name, their username, and like that. And notice that there is no other place to add in passwords. Okay, so once you are done creating the user, it automatically creates a password. So you can decide to change the password after you are done creating the users, depending on what you want to achieve. So let's go ahead and try our first two, assuming we were given 20 people to create. So let's say Regina Daniels, right, and her username, which is also her email address, based on our organization's naming convention. So we have Regina dot Daniels. Okay, some of you might be laughing. All right, so if you have your custom domain here, you can now click on the drop down mtn.com, but obviously we only have the subdomain given to us by Microsoft, which is our own main domain. Okay, then let's say the second one, the second person is Bob, and the surname is Risk. Well, I didn't say anything. If you're saying something in your mind, that's on you. So I go ahead and do Bob, and I do Risk. Okay, and like that. So it's easier this way than if you're creating the users one after the other, the way I just created one user. So you can do this for 10, 20 persons depending on how many people you want to. So you can see that this allows you to enter up to 249 users. Okay, and all users are given what temporary passwords. So you can just keep clicking on this add row, add row, add row. It will just keep adding more rows, and you just keep filling them. And once you are done filling them, you can now go ahead and click on next and all of that. So let's go ahead and click on next. Okay, so for our two users, if I click on this, you see that it has subtracted 2. So if it were to be 10 users, it will subtract 10 licenses here, right? And we can go ahead and click on next. But before we click on next, I want us to go back and I want us to see something under our licenses. The same thing you would check whenever you are creating any user, be it one user or multiple users. When you create a licensed user, depending on the license you have, like this is an E5 license, which means it gives us access to everything. Now, the reason why you see without Windows or audio conferencing is because it's a developer license, it's a training license, so they definitely would take out these, okay? But if it were to be a standard E5 license, it has everything, including Windows and audio conferencing and all of that. But for now, if you scroll down and you go ahead and click on the apps, you'd see that for your E5, you have over 73 apps. So these are you remember when we were looking at the comparison in the other video? These are the items that you get to see. So do you know that I can come over here as an admin and decide to give a user an E5 license but without some things? So the person can be using an E5 license and I can still decide to remove this. I can still decide to remove this and still create the user as a licensed user. And the user will not be able to do all of these things, even though the user is using an E5 license. So as an admin, you can go ahead and do all of this even while trying to assign a license to a user. So I just wanted to show us that. So we can go ahead and click on next and click on add users. Remember, we're adding 20 users, but ours is 2. So let's go ahead and click on add. So you can see that Regina Daniels and Bob Risk, they all have been created successfully, and it's easier instead of you creating one by one. That's just so stressful. Okay, so if I click on this, It downloads the user's information using a CSV, which is like your Excel. So if I should open it, so you see that it has created a temporary password for our users. So even if I created 20 users, it will show me their temporary password that I can share it with them. Remember, I clicked on the option that says even after creating their password, they should be able to change it by themselves. So this will be a temporary login for them. After they log in with this password, they can now change it to whatever they want to do. And some organizations, they do not change it, they leave it that way, right? So that the IT can take cognizance of the user, and the user don't get to do things in a funny manner. Even if I should give you the ability to change it yourself, I can still change it without you noticing, because I am the admin. I can still go ahead and change it for the end user. Okay, so I go ahead and click on close, and then we have added Bob Risk and the other person, which is Regina Daniels. Okay, so if we search for Regina, we get to see her account here, and you can just copy that and send it to her to log in. Okay, so that is exactly how to add multiple users. The first way. We'll look at the second way of adding multiple users using the CSV in our next class, so that your brain doesn't get saturated. Okay, so the next thing we need to look at here before we call it a day is user templates. Remember, I had to skip it and I had to go to add multiple users so that we can be done with users, and then we can talk about user templates. So what exactly do you understand by user templates? For example, your organization has a way of creating users that are in the sales department. The way your organization creates users that are in sales department is different from the way your organization will create users that are in the engineering department. So if I hire a salesperson today, I know how to create that person's account. I have a way. My organization has created a blueprint, and we are saying follow this blueprint in creating a sales guy's account or a saleswoman's account. Same with engineering, same with IT. Okay, so if I do not want to try to push my brain to the limits by always remembering, oh, how do I create a salesperson's account? What's the format for creating an engineering person account? What do? I can go ahead to create a user template. So when a salesperson gets onboarded, or when a salesperson is hired, I, as the IT person, will just use the sales template and create an account for this salesperson. And same goes for engineering, IT, and other departments. Now, these are for highly organized organizations. Some organizations just create users the same way. But just in case that's how your organization works, you can go ahead and use user templates. So how does it work? So let's go ahead and click on user templates, and let's go ahead and click on add a template. So the first template we would want to click on is for sales. So we'll call this sales template. We'll just say sales. You can add a description, template for a full-time sales worker in Nigeria or whatever, and we click on next. And you choose the domain. If you have multiple domain, mtn.com, globalcom.com, let's just imagine these are the subsidiaries in your organization. You can go ahead and choose and say, okay, everybody coming from sales, they will bear mtn.com. Everybody coming from engineering, they will bear globalcom.com, or everybody can use the same domain. Okay, so for salespeople, I want to use auto-generated password. I don't want sales guys to change their password. I leave it that way. I click on next. And the next thing I need to do is anytime a salesperson comes in, I go ahead to assign a license. Okay, so I do this, assign my license. I leave the region. I go to next, and I go to next. Okay, sorry, let me go back. And I say, salespeople, this is exactly what I want. I don't want them to have any admin access, so I leave it as it is. Okay, except it's the head of sales, right? And then the profile info, which is very important. This is exactly where it makes the difference. So for salespeople, of course, I come here and put the template sales. That's their department. Their job title would start with maybe S. Okay, or starts with SA. That's how I know they are salespeople. Then I can their office. Where do we have our sales guys? Their office is at, let's say, Asokoro, right? And then you can leave every other thing, because all these are unique, right? The city might not be unique, the state might not be unique, okay? The zip code can all be the same, but the office number, okay, office phone number, yes, can be unique because we can have different office phone number. All these streets and all of that, you can decide to put them there, okay? Because they are the same, and so is the country. So we can go ahead and click on next, and we do finish adding. So we have added our sales template. Okay. So lastly, let's add another one. Let's add engineering template. So we'll call this engineering. Okay. And we put maybe template for full-time engineers in Nigeria. Okay. And click on next. We'll click on the right domain for them, and we leave all this the way they are. Yes, our engineering guys should always have a license, right? And then we click on next. And then maybe the person doesn't require a role, we'll leave it the way it is. And in the profile, which is what makes the difference, I will always come over here and do engineering, engineer. Okay, so engineer. And the department is engineering. Okay. And the office is Maitema. The phone number, you can leave all of these, and you can put these other ones, because they are all the same, but the phone number, they are unique, so you can just do that and leave it. So you click on next and click on finish adding, and congratulations, we have successfully created what? We have successfully created what? Our template. So how do we now administer this template? So you see, we did not create a user, so you cannot see the user here. So how do we successfully create this, utilize this template we have created? Boom, your organization hires a new person, and that person is in sales department. So instead of coming over here and doing add user, which could just take a lot of time unnecessarily, I can just go ahead and do user templates. So you can see the two templates we added, engineering and sales. So this user, what department is this user? Sales. So let's go ahead and click on sales. And then all that I owe this user is the unique information about the user, which is their name. So let's say Anne Jacobs, right? And then Anne dot Jacobs. Now you see, I don't need to select anything because it's a template, and the template, this was the domain that I chose. Okay, so I don't need to select any other thing here. You can see the template name I'm using is what? Sales. Now see, it has picked all this information from the template, so I don't need to be going one by one to do all of this. Under the user profile, this is exactly what this person will have: SA, sales, and Asokoro. So I don't need to be doing it one by one for all the users. Because of the template I created, it has automatically picked up all of these. So I go ahead to do add user. So simple as ABC, and Jacobs is created already. So I go ahead and click on search for Anne. Excuse me. If I click on Anne and I scroll down, I click on manage contacts, you can see SA is her job title, sales, Asokoro. All these things I didn't have to pre-fill them because I used the template. When we start talking about user attributes, then we'll go deep into that. So if you have gotten to this part, if you have successfully created your template and successfully created the first hired person, right? If you successfully created the first hired person, you don't need to use a license. Okay, you can create the first hired person without a license so that we don't exhaust the licenses that are here. Please take note, your users must not have a license. Do not add a license to them. Okay, so once you are done, then congratulations, you have successfully created a user account, you have successfully created multiple user accounts, and you have successfully created what? A user template, and created a user account that ties to that template. So if you have gotten here, congratulations for today's class. You are almost done with users. your 50% gone. We are still going to talk about users attributes, and how to create multiple users using CSV in our next class. So congratulations, my dear. You have just gotten to 50% of the user accounts. Yes. So see you in our next class. Please take your time, understand this practice, and we'll definitely see in our next class. Take care. Bye and have a lovely day.